Our moderator tonight is a feisty, charismatic, charming, she didn't tell me to say this, by the way, woman who has brought the dialogue on the death penalty to the forefront in the United States with her book, then Academy Award-winning movie, Dead Man Walking. Sister Helen Prejean has worked tirelessly to bring the experience of death row to those outside the walls, along with highlighting the needs of the victims. Her list of accomplishments and awards are long, as you can see in the program. Unfortunately, our second moderator, Vicki Schreiber, board chair of Murder Victims Families for Human Rights, is sick with an upper respiratory infection and was forbidden to fly by her doctor today. We can relate to that. Vicki has dedicated herself to giving the voice to the victims' families' experience in memory of her daughter, Shannon, who was murdered at the end of her first year at the Wharton School of Business. Now, Sister Helen Prejean.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. And thank you to all of our religious leaders for being here tonight to stand up and to help ignite discourse in this community. As Catherine was singing, my journey, it is a journey and it continues. And the religious quest is at the heart of it, the journey to Christ. I didn't always understand about Jesus and the poor. I started out to be a nun, as holy as I could be, maybe a saint, and serving, but not understanding about justice and really not understanding about poor people very much because I grew up as a child of privilege. And I awakened. And in faith language, when we say we awaken, it's called grace. And the journey that you are going to go on in the opera, those of you who are going to see it, are going to be broad. If you think of the cross as having two arms, the symbol of execution, as you know, it was the way the Romans said don't mess with Rome, and their anti-crime program. But there are two arms on the cross. And the death penalty is a tough issue because on one of the arms are the victims, innocent human beings who start out an ordinary day in an ordinary way. And before the day is over, their whole lives are shattered. And parents are anguishing over their children. And this act has been done that nobody can take back afterwards. It's irrevocable. And so in the journey within the opera, we're going to go over to the murder victims' side. We're going to hear their anguish. We're going to hear their pain. And then we're going to go over on the other side of the cross too, because there's a perpetrator. There's a person who killed innocent people in a most unbelievably terrible and cruel and cold and calculated way. And in the opera, we're going to experience this. It's one way it differs from the film of Dead Man Walking. In the film of Dead Man Walking, you're always waiting, did he do it, did he not? In the opera, we witness the taking of innocent human life in a violent way, and everything is unleashed on the journey after that. In the victims' families, I wish Vicki could be with you tonight. Their daughter Shannon was brutally murdered. And when victims' families are hit with this heavy rock and this loss, where do you turn? You notice that in what the district attorney, what the prosecutor was saying to the jury, look at their pain. Look at what they're going through. And that's what the death penalty's for. They deserve justice. They're never going to see their grandchildren. Do justice. Give the death penalty. And Vicki could tell us her story of healing and Shannon losing her beautiful daughter and how she and Syl struggled and anguished. And the way Vicki puts it, if I can put it simply, I've heard her say it many times, I was formed in deep Catholic principles of life, and we all have principles, but when we're tested, We know if the principles on which we stand are made of rock or if they wash away with all the voices saying to us, Vicki and Sil, it looked like you didn't love your daughter Shannon if you're not for the death penalty. And the witnesses of victims' families in this country are helping us in the death penalty. Just came from Illinois. The fourth state in the fourth year to make now 16 states that have abolished the death penalty. Now I know we're in Texas. And I want to say to you that I have been in and out of Texas many, many, many times and talked to all kinds of people here, all kinds of audiences, and I want to say this. The people of Texas are not any different from people in other parts of the United States. I find some of the same things that most people have not reflected deeply on the death penalty. You hear about a terrible crime and say, yeah, well, that's what they deserve. That's what the death penalty's for. It's not one of the moral issues that hits home personally in the way other moral issues do. I believe in the goodness of the American people. I've met them over the last 20 years. Traveling and speaking and sharing with people. The Christian churches, and we have a rabbi here with us tonight too, the Christian churches have the traditional teaching about the death penalty was always basically about self-defense. In the times of Thomas Aquinas or Augustine, there were not prisons where you could protect people from violent people who were like madmen. And so in order to defend society, they asked for the death penalty. But we have grown, and in modern society we have a way to incapacitate dangerous people. So do we need the death penalty? Do we still need the death penalty? And some of us who come from a pro-life position are very clear. Well, look, unborn children are innocent. I'm for the dignity of unborn children. Or I'm for the dignity of people with Alzheimer's that people are trying to euthanize. But murderers, they stepped across a line. They killed a person. And doesn't justice demand that we do to them what they did to the one that they killed? And in my second book, The Death of Innocence, I take you through my own journey with my Catholic community on the issue of the death penalty, including, when the time is ripe, a dialogue with Pope John Paul. And you're going to hear coming now from our bishops and from the Catholic Church the dignity of all life, not just innocent life, but guilty life too. And Pope John Paul, after the catechism was changed, stood before us in St. Louis in 1999 and put the death penalty in with the other pro-life issues in a way that had never been done before. No to abortion, he said, no to physician-assisted suicide, and no to the death penalty, which is cruel and unnecessary because we have prisons. Even those among us who have done a terrible crime have a dignity that must not be taken from them. Statements, church teachings are one thing. The journey that we each make, those of us who try to follow the way of Jesus, those of us who are in the Hebrew tradition following Isaiah in the quest for mercy of a merciful and loving God, we have to go through our own journey. And those of you who are going to go to the opera, you're going to see my journey, but you're going to be on the biggest journey of all. I just want to tell you that we'll have the books of Dead Man Walking in the lobby, because reading a book is a way to go on a silent journey as well, and I'll be happy to be there for you and sign them for you. And now we have our religious leaders in this city, some of them who've chosen to take a very public stand to share their own journey on the death penalty. But don't let me take away your fire here, Patricia. I think you're going to be the one to introduce each one.
You're the feisty one.